you were in charge of Delta Corporation during the financial crisis. Tell me the lessons, particularly around 2008 financial crisis, and the leadership lessons that come out of the 10 years that you spent heading the Delta Corporation.
For me, when I look back to that time, it was a very difficult time, but extremely exciting time for me. And the enduring lesson, when I look back, I always think the enduring lesson for me was what you can do for an organization when you've got a team that is fired up and energized and you're working together. Wow. You know, even at the depth of the crisis in 2008, I can recall very distinctly that the Delta team was excited.
Wow.
They were raring to go. I cannot remember one moment when we felt we were kind of like overwhelmed. In fact, in many ways, I don't know whether we were kind of suckers for pain or punishment, but we really used to love the fact that things were getting tough, but we were also getting tougher, and we were overcoming the problems. But why was the team fired up? The team was fired up because we were always planning what we would do beyond the crisis. We always took the view that the crisis was a temporary thing and that it would pass.
So you did not focus on the crisis.
No, not at all.
The crisis.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. In fact, right at the beginning of the crisis, well, I remember my team and I going away for a 3-day conference, and we were debating, when will the crisis end? How will we know that the crisis has ended? And what will we do when the crisis has ended? And so we got teams to plan what we'll do. One team to plan how we will know when the crisis has ended. What are the markers? What are the kind of significant events that must happen for us to know that the crisis, in fact, has ended? And another team was working at post-crisis. What will Delta look like when the crisis ends? What will we do doing? How will we revitalize our business? So everybody was busy. It was a time of, how can I put it? I mean, it was a terrific time, Trevor, despite all the problems that we were facing with hyperinflation and all that.
Wow.
So I look back, but there's some lessons that I think as a leader, one needs to share with colleagues. One of the critical things that we did was to communicate intensely. You know, prior to the crisis, we used to meet the top leadership of Delta, the top 150 people of Delta every quarter. We compressed that time frame. We started meeting them frequently, monthly, and my top team every week, sometimes every day if necessary. And everybody in the organization knew where Delta was and what we would do afterwards. And so there was never a moment of people not knowing what would happen. So that communication...
Doubt, hesitation.
No. That communication was incredibly effective in keeping people focused on the future, but in also knowing what is happening today, so that in fact, the whole team stayed focused on the job.
So talk to me about this, Joe. I mean, that's fascinating, that you can inspire people by focusing them onto the future when they are in crisis. What is it that you need to do that?
Trevor, how did we do that? Well, I don't know. I suppose I go back to Wawa. Because in Wawa, can you imagine a situation where you are in detention without trial? You don't know when you're going to come out. You could be there for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but you're planning your life when you're released from Wawa. So I started applying for my place for scholarship and university place while I was in Wawa, without knowing when I would be released. I got my place at London School of Economics, and I was offered a scholarship by the United Nations well before I was released. I didn't know when I would go there, but I had those ready for me. My mind was always focusing on what I would do after Wawa. So I suppose in a way I carried it over to Delta to say, well, there's a crisis here, but it's going to pass. This too shall pass. What will we be doing post that crisis? So that was the kind of, I remember, I must share this incident, Trevor. This was in 2008.
Right.
at the height of the crisis, September 2008 to be precise. If you recall, the inflation was going completely off the charts there. I remember when we'd finished our plans in Delta, I went to the major shareholder and took a plane to South Africa, met the major shareholder there and said, can you finance our expansion and recovery plan? Would like you to buy some more shares in Delta in return for foreign currency for us to revitalize our equipment and machinery. I remember the distinct look on the faces of the people sitting around the table. I said, is this guy crazy? I said, Joe, you're in the middle, you're melting down. You know, the economy is crumbling. And you come here to us to ask for money to rebuild your company. And I said to them, we know that this is temporary. We know that this will pass. And they believed me. But it was that forward-looking perspective that carried the day for us at Delta.
Fantastic.
And it comes from in an inner place, a place of confidence and self-belief.